Awesome.
There it is. Yep.
Well, thanks everybody for being here today. Looks like a pretty good group. We're archiving this for history, and we'll go ahead and get started. Make full use of the time today. You can drop your questions in the chat as we go, and we've got a lot to get through, and it'll be a whirlwind, but I'll stay for bonus time after the top of the hour and get to as many questions as I can. And it would be great to have a detailed conversation. I love the details of this stuff. But first, before we actually kick off, I'll give Katie Meyer, our conference producer and education director, an opportunity to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Katie Meyer, happy to be Whirlwind Solar Farm Summit, heading to Georgia in a month, and hope to see you there. Lots of good conversations to be had. So if you have any questions, you can reach out and I'll help monitor the chat as well.
Thanks, Katie. Appreciate your help as always. All right, let's get it started. My name's Dan French. Welcome back to the sporadic Solar Farm Summit live stream. Good to see some familiar names in the chat, and we've had a lot of fun kicking up the Solar Farm Summit the last several years, building this agrivoltaics community, and so excited to take the show on the road and go back to our roots where we began with state events, market development events, always on the bleeding edge, the leading edge of development and use and even reuse. And I'll get to my bio a little bit later, but I'm just an old dirt lawyer trying to get everything I can out of every square foot. Sometimes this is the preview of the Georgia Solar Farm Summit. Coming up next, we're doing several things, though. As you can see, the Georgia Solar Farm Summit is just the first in a series of state-centric Solar Farm Summit events that will begin this summer. Next month in July, 1 month, we'll be in Athens on the beautiful campus of the University of Georgia. But we have been doing the Virginia Solar Summit for many years, as some of y'all know. The North American Agrivoltaics Awards, solarfarmtours.com. Trying to stir up the marketplace of ideas in many different ways. There it is, the Georgia Solar Farm Summit. Again, coming to Athens, July 15 and 16. There will be a pre-party. The social program is as robust as the educational program. But first, let me begin, and I must start with big thank yous to the Odom School of Ecology there at the University of Georgia and Atlantic Coast Conservancy. In Virginia, we have state agencies that are our co-hosts. We didn't exactly get to a co-host level this year. It's a smaller, workshop event, not some of these. We had almost 1,000 people at the last Solar Farm Summit. And starting modestly in Georgia and ready to roll up the sleeves with some of the folks, some of the groups that have already been doing a lot of this work, including the Odom School and the Atlantic Coast Conservancy. There they are in the field. Some of the folks from the Odom School. You can find this great article, a lot of great stuff on their website. The Google will take you there. And we're building on some of the success that they've already convened, including last summer. Some of y'all probably went to the Agrivoltaics Roundtable. They're hosted there by the Odom School, and happy to plop in and build on the momentum. We're all in this together. Here's the tentative Georgia Solar Farm schedule, just updated. This breaking news. You can get to the tentative schedule of sessions actually now. The detailed sessions have dropped. It'll move maybe a little bit, and certainly there'll be more speakers added. And some of the feature sessions will be named as we kind of turn for home and save some of the best for last and some of the biggest guns and some of the best stuff. But here you can see 3 days. Really, I'll be there day 0. We call it the travel day, July 14th. And it will be the Odom School of Ecology hosting the networking happy hour that evening. So if you're arriving early, make sure you're registered. You'll get kind of the exclusive invite and join us. I'll be there. It's about the people power, and we've got to work together. And so we'll get started a little bit early and take it easy and hydrate ourselves. We're starting early that next day. You can come early and kind of network. Thanks to incredible sponsorship and support, including from our partners. We will have hot breakfasts and lunches both days, main program days, Wednesday and Thursday. So come early, eat, converse, meet folks. It's an unusually interdisciplinary gathering. Before the program begins, break bread. make new friends. And then we're going to get into a really dynamic program, some feature sessions. There won't be too many solo speakers. We take the substance in the curriculum quite seriously. We start at a beginner's level. We do some 101s and ABCs. So if it's the first time that you've ever seen some of this stuff, we'll get your feet wet. And then we kind of build up from there. And by the end, we're getting into some pretty advanced, topics. We have the doers, the practitioners, the ones in the field who are doing some of this very specialized work. And happy and honored to have some of them coming from quite far away. So it's an event for Georgia by Georgia. But we're kind of our goal with the bigger roadshow is to carry these best practices, the lessons learned, a lot of the brainstorming we've been doing for many years in other relevant fields, like what do we do about pollution? We got one set of soil, pretty much, one collective soil across the earth. Okay, great speakers, including Commissioner Peter Hubbard, you see up there, legend Will Harris. There's Dr. Keller from the Atlantic Coast Conservancy. Dynamic, diverse group, kind of across the spectrum, energy people, environment people, ecology people, farmers, ranchers, advocates, researchers. Come one, come all to the Georgia Solar Farm Summit. There's Will Harris and I. I believe this is 2024. We managed to get Mr. Harris up to Chicago for one of the big North American agrivoltaics expos. And there's Katie Meyer, our conference producer and education director, and you see her styling a very stylish t-shirt there, along with Julia on her left. And behind them, you can get a preview of what you will find in the exhibition at the Georgia Solar Farm Summit. That's our AgPV engagement zone. It's got hundreds of visuals of kind of a virtual walking tour. I see a vineyard in Portugal back there. I know there's raspberries in the Netherlands, all kinds of amazing things. Come see for yourself. Farmers all over the world are already tinkering with this stuff. Also, it's the only place in the world where you'll be able to get your hands on this t-shirt. Be the first to get these awesome red and black sheep Georgia Solar Farm Summit t-shirts. You got to run this circuit, though. The easiest, most sure way to get one is to come and meet with all the exhibitors, including ASGA. So glad to have the American Solar Grazing Association plugging in. They'll have several folks there. You'll find them in the program, particularly in some of the solar grazing sessions. I'm at one of America's first, one of America's best agrivoltaics organizations for farmers. Also, the Colorado Agrivoltaic Learning Center is coming from Colorado. That's Jack's Solar Farm, Jack's Solar Garden behind the background there. It's a grandson who took over his grandfather's hay farm and has brought it new life. They're doing all kinds of things. They've done catavoltaics out there at Jack's Solar Garden, and a lot of learning, of course. Agritourism we'll touch on later. Brought a lot of people to the farm, including the young minds, to show them how they're doubling the harvest. Some of the best, leading category type stuff you'll find. Still slimming down and maybe the expo focusing on the substance of the program and trying to stir the laboratory estates. But we'll have a lot of the best folks. The innovation's incredible, and I'll touch back on that. I got a whole other presentation about all the amazing innovations that's happening in this space and a lot of the other spaces. But sun's on here. I think the future of solar fencing is very bright. A lot of places you can tuck that in. There they are on the floor at McCormick Place at the big show last summer. I hope that they bring their awesome figurines there, a little diorama. Awesome team. And thanks to Terawatt sponsor, United Agrivoltaics. Again, one of the first kind of solar grazing organizations with an interesting model. They're spread across the country now, creating jobs for solar grazers, but doing all kinds of things, pushing the edges. They've got some cooney pigs on some sites in the Northeast and Indiana, and actually they are selling mushrooms now. So there's all kinds of amazing things you can do in the solar shade, and United Agrivoltaics is actually growing and selling solar mushrooms. Okay, you can find all this information on our website. There's a lot to it. If you've ever been on campus, we've customized a little map for you. You can find where we'll be. But if you've ever gone to a Georgia football game, you'll find your way quite easily. Happy to be there in the summer. There'll be a camp, I think, around the way, but we'll kind of have our run of a place. Football camp will begin maybe after we come in, so it's a good time to sneak into the beautiful town of Athens. and on campus there. But if you have any direction or information, you can find all this on our website. Helpful links here and around. Download this map and print it out if need be. You can print out other things. There's kind of information sheets and a lot of other information on the Georgia Solar Farm Summit website. So go to georgiasolarfarmsummit.com and learn more about kind of what we're doing, why we're doing it, who might be there, where we're going. And then a little bit about me, just quick bio. I'm not going to bother reading all this, but just so you know who I am, my face isn't on the website, and I used to not do bios, but important that I do. Just so you know, I am the executive producer. I'm the founder of the Solar Farm Summit, and I'm really a lawyer and an economist. I went to the University of Illinois, moved around a lot as a kid. I'm actually a Hatfield, so deep family roots down Appalachia way. Let's see, I went to law school. Globalization was pretty hot around the turn of the millennium. Got a master's of law, couldn't get enough. I got that in Europe, actually, and British Petroleum hired me back to the States. Started doing a lot of due diligence. I wasn't interested, actually, in real estate, I guess, in law school, but I got a crash course and started divesting a lot of BP's polluted real estate until we blew up the Gulf of Mexico. And then it was all hands on deck for that. And I learned a lot about triage and crisis and the stakes, as we got 8 billion people on the planet there. So I try to practice something called functionalism. I'm a nonpartisan guy. That's maybe more important. And, an android for America is one of my joke. We got to get energy, economics, and our environment in the right balance to sustain the 8 billion people on the planet and growing, or there will be dire consequences, or just the price will go up. And the price is already going up. We'll get back to that. The last thing I'll say about myself is that I'm actually not a solar guy. I have no financial stakes in any specific solar projects or any specific investments for that matter. DB Foresights has been my main little consulting boutique for many years, where I spend most of my time. The conferences are running more or less like a nonprofit, not set up that way, but we don't make money. I'm actually a volunteer, but I don't take stakes. I provide hopefully rigorously objective advice to those clients that I do advise, but not solar. So hopefully everything you're about to see, a lot of economics, a lot of solar, a lot of energy, is also rigorously objective. All right, let's get into it. Hang on to your seats. I got a lot to throw at you, and I'm still drinking coffee. But I've cut some of that macro work into this deck, and we're going to run through. And my challenge today is to brief you on the state of the world, to the extent you're not already watching the news and up to date, and make the case for agrivoltaics. I presume if you're watching this, you already have some idea what we're doing here. Crops, critters, and conservation under and alongside the panels. Actual solar farming plus solar energy of some kind. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll understand how I got here and the big reasons why. Let's start with the energy emergency. President Trump began by declaring a national energy emergency on day one, January 20th, one of his first executive orders. I think we all know the reasons why. You've probably seen this chart. During the pandemic, we had an explosion of energy prices. It was actually, even adjusted for inflation, the most that American consumers had ever spent on energy. There it is. This was projections kind of coming into last year, and you can just kind of see, over time, pretty much doubled. I know it's a smart audience, so I'm gonna go fast, and you can kind of find yourself, on the map where you are. We have a fragmented grid, so your geography will determine your price. And here, a little dated from last year, but coming out of the pandemic, prices kind of normalized, particularly on the wholesale market. But those residential prices are quite sticky, and I don't probably have to tell you all kind of where we've gone by the end of these charts to now. But again, here you are, depending on what mini grid you're on. That's the kind of price that you'll pay. Should have updated that. I apologize. This is a little closer. The last PJM auction, not so relevant for Georgia, and not for California, right? But in Virginia, they care a lot. We were talking a lot about this a couple months ago at the Virginia Solar Summit, and there you can see, an order of magnitude increase in a very short time. Quite dramatic, even for economists. But even more dramatic is one of the greatest capital mobilizations of all time, courtesy of Jensen Huang here and NVIDIA. And he's actually holding up a newer chip, which pulls more than 700 watts per chip. 700 watts is about an average US house. And in these big data centers, there might be 100,000 chips or more. And that chip he's actually got in his hands pulls about a kilowatt per chip. So it's a demand boom. I know y'all know about this, keeping you up at night, maybe not, hopefully not. Here it is, great graphic from NRAL. It's a boom. Goldman Sachs last month forecasting basically prices demand may double. Data center demand, a lot of that is going to be paper demand, but there's a gold rush for tokens, as it's called, for compute. And Goldman Sachs very recently, and people say a lot of things about Goldman Sachs, but everybody says they're pretty smart. And they're talking about, even after all this nonsense, demand may double. Again, it depends on where you are. So big difference between the mid-Atlantic and the Northwest and so on. So whereas our friends in Virginia, as we'll see, are the data center capital of the world, are feeling the pain. Places like Texas, where they're building a lot, and places like Georgia are maybe a little bit ahead of the curve, or they have maybe a little bit more time before the compute gold rush catches up to them. It's our fault. Here we are on the internet right now. ChatGPT, why is my electric bill so high? Stop asking. And stop telling AI everything. But in fairness, it's not just data centers. Data centers are not the only problem. They are not the only category of dramatic historical electricity demand growth. We pretty much see it across the board. Everything's electrifying. And I don't have time to get too esoteric with the history of the Industrial Revolution, but we could. I would love to spend an hour diving deep, just freezing on this slide. Maybe on campus of the University of Georgia, there's a class. But what we see, and you can see this, analysts talking about this in Wall Street and in Silicon Valley, this larger historical sweep from animals to machinery to more recently molecules, and now most recently electrons. And it works for all kinds of reasons, even just friction. There's no thermal reaction, right? The electrons are just moving at the speed of light. So at an atomic level, electrons just work better. What saved us is from even higher energy inflation so far is the supply boom that we've had very recently. Might not have to tell you about this, but let's recap. Being a former oil and gas guy, we didn't think this was going to happen. Peak oil is a word I hope no one's ever heard. That's something I've tried to forget. But that's what Iraq War, some people tell you that's what the Iraq War was about, including former chairman of the Federal Reserve, Alan Greenspan. But we had a supply boom, fracking. President Barack Obama, not known as a great oil man, but doubled oil production thanks to fracking. And this is what it looked like from space. That's out in the Dakotas, and it's lit up like Minneapolis or Chicago. There, out in the middle of nowhere in rural America, with guys sleeping in their cars making six figures. It was actually the biggest oil boom of all time. Oil and gas. So this is an older chart. Back in 2017, we were about to catch up with the Saudis. We were thinking maybe by about last year, we'd have 9 million barrels a day. In actuality, by 2023, we had almost 13 million. And last year, we cleared 13.5 million barrels per day. Drill, baby, drill was a slogan, not so much anymore because it happened. And now the United States is the largest liquefied natural gas exporter in the world. It was Russia. But actually, Australia and Qatar have both overtaken Russia. And now China is actually the largest LNG importer. We'll get back to that. We have the cheapest. Why does it matter? It's a great story, created those jobs. Gold rush in rural America, parts of it. But we benefited on prices because it was actually natural gas that killed coal. It was very easy to switch those coal burners to natural gas burners. And we saw just a decade of quick refits. And it's because we have the cheapest natural gas in the world. How much longer we have the cheapest natural gas, we'll see, because basically as soon as the fracking boom came on, we were building import terminals that we repurposed to export terminals. And we became a huge exporter almost overnight. And then what you see on the screen here are projects in the queue, projects permitted under construction. We're about to double our export capacity again. And Economics 101, again, don't have time for the deep lecture, but you probably already know the basic law of supply and demand. So the more we export, the less to the global markets, which have triple or higher the price, the less will be available at home. And maybe over time, global natural gas markets will equalize, just like crude oil prices have equalized. Okay, it's been a great story until very recently. So this is John Ketchum. He's the CEO of NextEra. And last CERAWeek, so last summer, he kind of made this interesting call. NextEra, one of the biggest energy players in the world, built a lot of natural gas, done a lot of solar, does a lot of everything, as you all may know. And in 2022, he pointed out they were building a new natural gas fired facility for about $785 per kilowatt. But today, or this was actually last year, that had pretty much tripled, $2,400 per kilowatt. Worse, if you wanted to get one, you're going to have to get in line, and that line's only gotten longer. We're trying to catch up, but we just don't have the manufacturing capacity to build fast enough. And if you want one, order it today. You hopefully will get it in the early 2030s. So if that is the reality, the hard reality, what else can we do? Solar, those are our friends at SEIA, making their argument that there's basically no way to meet the expected new demand without solar, which we know deploys the fastest and the cheapest and is getting better and pairs extremely well with batteries. But at the wrong moment, this energy rush is kind of maturing in certain ways in certain places, like in Virginia, where we've spent a lot of our time as a community, and folks are pushing back. So in 2024, as you can maybe see here, the University of Virginia put these numbers together, where for the first time, less projects got approved than rejected. So we've fallen about 50% for these utility scale projects. Localities saying no. They bounced last year, though. These numbers did improve. But the risk maybe with this energy gold rush is we've moved away from NIMBYism to bananas. We've gone total bananas because it's hard not only to build solar, to build natural gas, to build a pipeline, to build anything, to build a Walmart. So building absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone, I hope, is not the new fallback line, because it's a renaissance. Everything's up for grabs, and it's a time of transition. But there's the very unfortunate effects at the time. California had brought out a lot of solar, as you may know, and Virginia became the largest energy importing state. And here's just a different mix of it again at that time. I don't know if I think Virginia is not the top importing state anymore as of last year, but just so you can see, no, but Virginia did not want to be number one. But thanks to their good neighbors there nearby in Pennsylvania, they're able to power all those data centers. And you can see Georgia down there on the list too, although in a somewhat different place. Like Virginia has nuclear energy, a nice portfolio. But that was a setup coming into the current supply shock. Won't spend time on this. You're seeing it in the news. We've got a deal for a deal. Fingers crossed for that. But it matters in my work. We have the just-in-time inventory system. It's really dominated for multiple generations, and the ships have to show up on time. When the straits got closed, natural gas prices exploded. We've been sending a lot of our LNG to Europe, but the Europeans have been getting most of it from the Middle East, so their prices absolutely exploded. There was crude oil prices way back down this week, but fertilizer prices also exploded. We are not self-sufficient in the United States for our fertilizer needs, and almost half of the synthetics are coming from the Middle East. So this has really hurt. This is courtesy of the American Farm Bureau Federation, so you can go kind of find some of their work on this, some of the risk analysis. But it hurts, particularly if you waited to plan. If you didn't hedge and you were hoping that fertilizer prices would maybe go down, you'd be able to save. That did not pan out for you as an agricultural planner. I was pulling this from another presentation where we were modeling gas inventories and over other recent crises, and where you can hear some analysts worrying about finding the bottom of the tanks. Hopefully not. The ships will flow, but this is the real world economics, and that's a nice segue to where it all began. Beautiful picture, conceptual artwork there, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. And going to pull now. Let's put on my professorial hat and do some lessons from the ancient world. Getting into real economics. Let's look at the cradle of agriculture, the cradle of civilization, the Fertile Crescent. Y'all probably remember this from 5th grade, I hope. The world's first farm fields were out there in is what we now know as a desert, but they invented irrigation, which helped drive their agricultural innovation. But unfortunately for them, the shallow water table, the simple dike system, and the fact that still today 90% of rainfall in drylands evaporates right back into the atmosphere. Over time, the salinity in the soil increased. They were trapping salt behind the dikes, and it was evaporating too quickly, and the yields declined, They tried to switch to barley, and then the Bible picks up at a certain point, and we all know what happened. There's an ancient or an old expression, an Arab proverb today that probably comes out of that history, a cultural memory. Maybe sunshine all the time makes a desert, and that's what it looks like today. The where wheat was growing naturally and we cultivated it, and excuse me, sheep and other livestock. It's a desert today. There's a rock, precious little fresh water. Back in 2022, this was a dust storm. You can kind of see it just blowing around for a couple days. But it's not exclusive to the cradle of civilization. Desertification is a story some of the older folks have been hearing a lot about. It's happening in Africa. There's Lake Chad in 1973. There was Lake Chad. It's down 90% since the 1960s. Also in Asia, there's the Aral Sea. A lot of this is over exploitation, industrial and agricultural. But there's another AI coming to get us. The aridity index. It's happening all over the world. So here you can see the global dryland average from 81 to 2000. And what you can see is some more recent drying. So this is the UN aridity index. It's really until recently, AI's taken over, but this was the crux of most of my work as a full contact economist and lawyer. But it's happening. Most of the world is drying out. 77.6% is drying out. If we're drying out, we're dying out, y'all. Most of the world's aquifers are in distress and in decline. And the majority of the world's lakes. Our soils are also in decline, overexploitation. Maybe a third of the world's soils have already been eroded, according to this older report from the UN. We've abandoned millions of acres already. And it matters if you care about carbon. Most of the world's carbon is in the oceans, but there's more carbon in the soils than in all the flora and fauna, all the plants and animals on the earth combined. About 560 gigatons of soil carbon. So as those Dr. Seuss worlds, those microbial ecosystems break down as they dry out and die out, it does roll up in the largest macro sense for all life on the planet. We are heating up, we are drying out everywhere, and USDA had to change the plant hardiness maps. As you may know, if you're an avid gardener like me, grew up gardening, half a degree change. You can go find this, half zone changes. There they are. So things are migrating north. Don't have time to read all this, but it's also a winter. It's not getting cold enough. That's a winter chill problem. Wheat needs that dormancy phase, right? We'll have I think the weakest wheat crop in 53 years, I read recently. Whiplash is the big problem. We'll get back to that, but early thaws and then refrosting is also confusing plants. And then summer heat stress, we're all familiar with that, stressing us out. And then, of course, the pests and the weed migration, ticks and so on, are also coming with the weather. It's not something new, though, and not exclusive to Asia or Africa. We have our own experience with desertification in the Dust Bowl. Again, I'm calling back your fifth grade American history class. I know y'all know about the Dust Bowl. A lot of real estate development, some bad policy, expansion, go-go markets, high prices driven from World War I, led up to Black Sunday. Devastating aftermath. A lot of program and policy was created, massive response. It came at a kind of an ironically good time during the Great Depression. But the Soil Erosion Service, formed then, is now known as the NRCS. As you might all know, millions of acres, millions of men put back to work, planting trees. Here's the nation's first watershed. There's Dr. Hugh Hammond Bennett, second from the left. And this is what it's all about. We still have these today. All the farm kids know. Folks, even if you're a city kid driving around, these are prairie strips. We're trying to create buffers, keep the soil in place, avoid the mistakes of the Dust Bowl. And we've done a lot of this. Millions, tens of millions of acres in the CRP. There it is. Over many decades now, more or less. It kind of depends on Congress and other things and markets. People have the optionality to go in and out of the CRP. It's changed a little bit over time. You can find all these great resources on the USDA website and the NRCS website. How-tos and great stories. We're getting better. We're getting smarter. There it is. That's not too far from my house. It's just a big windbreak. As a young guy, we used to, drink. We'd have a kegger back there. Don't do that, kids. But here's the CRP, the geographic distribution. And if you recall your fifth grade history class, where we're doing the most CRP is counties and places where the Dust Bowl had some of its most dramatic effects. And same thing for our livestock forage disaster program payments. So still hurting today. If it doesn't rain enough, there's a Agala aquifer draining up. And here you can see the just the distribution of payments. Here you can see that as fancy as we are in 2026 and the Terminator robots are coming to get us, if it doesn't rain, the cattle herd shrinks. So the cattle herd is still correlating with drought. We're still losing a lot of soil. Shout out to our friends at NASA. This is a pic from space. You can see a lot of soil erosion there. Maybe 160 years ago, we had more than a foot more than we have now, and still losing a lot. Despite all of our new best practices and CRP and no-till and a lot of things, we're going the wrong way a little bit. I'm going to try to speed up, talk about the weather, because we have this recurring drought. There it is, 2023. We set some records. This was the heat dome over in Texas, but over in Illinois, we had just rainfall departures. And again, it didn't rain and people died. So we had a flash drought on I-55 South in Illinois. Dust Bowl conditions, zero visibility, and 7 people were killed in a 72 vehicle crash. Again, not blaming farmers. I'm a farm kid, but just wrong, not enough rain, wrong time, wrong wind, and zero visibility. And the Illinois State Police were pretty definitive in their report. This was New York, you might remember at that time, wildfires. But this is Chicago. Last summer, out by my auntie's house, they had their first Dust Bowl ever in Chicagoland, way up by the Great Lakes. Okay, but what about Dust Bowls? What about just strong storms? That causes problems for agriculture too. There's the derecho, you might remember, caused some pretty damaging effects in Iowa. 100-mile-per-hour winds for about 30 minutes, 300 million in structural losses just for the grain bins. I was showing a big insurance audience some of this recently. You might not remember some of this, but $11 billion in damages that day. 3, almost maybe 4 million acres of corn and soybeans was affected in a years-long cleanup. You can go find all this. This is from McKinsey and Company, right? Grain traders care about this. My grandpa Haggerty was a grain trader in Chicago. And we're counting from space. This all really matters to feed that just-in-time inventory, the global food vending machine. Here's a little before and after. NASA Earth Observatory. There it is. There it was. So, Mother Nature bats last, and she's got a huge bat. So there it is. 500,000 acres totally lost, 160,000 crop insurance claims, 1.6 billion crop insurance payouts. And that was just a derecho. That was just the wind. 2018, also a bad year. You might recall, a bad year for wildfires, right? They did a study that year, running around in Seattle was the equivalent of smoking 7 cigarettes. Again, shout out from NASA. This is kind of a stylized graphic of what it looked like from space in that kind of breakout year for wildfires. Just another day on aerosol Earth that year. Agricultural burning in southern Africa is still a thing. Sahara dust is blowing every season, and so on. And today, this is more recent results. You can find this article, Salt Lake Tribune. Folks in Utah might be eating the Great Salt Lake dust. And wish I had more time to spend on this. But it matters, and we're eating it. In 2018, it cost us a lot of money. And in 2018, it killed people, right? Remember the campfire? That was the same year, 85 dead. So not integrating with our built environment, with the natural environment, and the prices going up. More storms, more billion-dollar disasters in 2021. And what I'd like to point out is the average cost is going up. So the average cost from 1980 to 2018, we were spending about $43 billion a year on storms, as you can see here. And from 2014 to 2018, in that most recent period, the price basically doubled, more so. Here's a look at it. So it's real money, and the price is going up. And won't dwell on this. Again, geography matters. Again, 2024, more recently, and I'll rely on your memory here. Again, more major billion-dollar events. And in Georgia, again, I don't have to tell you about this. Hurricane Helene, direct agricultural impacts. UGA estimated somewhere between $5.5 and $6.5 billion in total economic losses. And it was also just badly timed. There in late September, right before the harvest. So hurt forestry too. There it is. Big year for billion-dollar storms. It's causing collateral damage in Wall Street. The insurance companies are kind of pulling out, running a lot. The bean counters are running a lot of risk analysis. And this is a little dated again, but just want you to recall some of these headlines. State Farm pulling out of this market, that market, South Florida, California, it costs too much. And at the time, they're the fiduciary responsibilities to their shareholders, right? We as corporate attorneys understood we take seriously our responsibility to manage risk. State Farm said at the time, it's necessary to take these actions now to improve the company's financial strength. So we can't insure it. Can we do it? Or should we just get long on disaster stocks? All right. Wow. Bad news, and the price is going up. We haven't even talked about the current farming crisis. Oh, I got to read that quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower. I'm sorry, it's cut off. Farming looks mighty easy when your pen is a plow, or when your plow is a pencil and you're 1,000 miles from a cornfield. That's coming out of the last depression. Apologies, it's cut off. We're moving on to blitz pace. This is the most recent USDA farm survey. And as you can see, you got to go back to basically Abraham Lincoln to get more, to find fewer farmers than we have today. We're losing farms in every census, below 2 million now. And you can see from census to census, 2012 to 2022. Again, backwards looking, but this is coming into the current setup. We lost 10% of all farms, even though per capita food spending is at an all-time high, even adjusted for inflation. So folks are spending a lot on food. There it is, even food away from home, coming out of the pandemic. People have money, they've got to eat. And so, again, wish we had time for Agricultural Economics 400, but it's quite simple. It's summed up in this little bit dated chart, but farmers are kind of trapped by success. We have the most productive humans who've ever walked the earth in the field today, and thank our lucky stars for that. They're producing more than ever. But the more they produce, the lower the price. And that's how agricultural prices have consistently fell, even though the world population has exploded over that same time. It's deflation. That line is actually progress. It's innovation. It's productivity. That's really been the miracle. Inputs have held flat. We're using everything, herbicide, more efficiently. But it's been productivity. It's technology. It's know-how. It's people power. We've seen an explosion of services. That's one of the good pieces of the story. for agribusiness in America most recently. But it's this simple chart. What's wrong with Farm America? Or Farming America. It's the share of the farm dollar, right? So depending on who you are, is what you'll get. But farm production 9 cents. It's upstream, as we say, is making more of the money. Those uh, producers, the integrated companies, to those supplying that international food vending machine. But again, depending on what you're growing and how you're selling it, you'll make more or less. So field grown tomatoes, farmers are getting about 37%. Strawberries, I love strawberries. It's about half. Growth in greenhouses has also made up the difference. Again, that per acre productivity has gone up. Some of these higher value specialty crops. And so, in fact, most of our growth in tomatoes has been under greenhouse. Climate controlled agriculture is a thing, very efficient, 24/7, 365 production. Electricity, here's electricity as a percent of total farm expenses. Depending on who you are, you have more or kind of less. If you're in the poultry business, like a lot of folks in Virginia, a lot of folks in Georgia, you're either heating or cooling those poultry pretty much all year round, unless you get some of those perfect days, and that's going to jack up your bill. This is a little bit dated, but I wanted to stick with USDA ERS series, and you can see just the share of farm expenses on energy is growing. Depends on who you are, though, and what you'll pay. You're spending more or less on labor. But these bigger farms, the survivors, their expenses are also going up. They're spending more on everything. Or your hobby farms. So big split, right? So the vast majority of farms are making nothing, and not even can't below the tax threshold. This is just a recent story out of Vox. So we have very highly concentrated food sector, food production. It's about 4.4% of farms producing about half the country's food. We can quibble on this, but just wanted to share this with the general audience. We're importing a lot of our own food. The United States is not necessarily self-sufficient, even though we are the food powerhouse of the world, feeding the world, but we're exporting a lot of commodity stuff and importing things, especially from Mexico, where a lot of those tomato greenhouses are. And so you're seeing pushback. I pulled that from social media for some of that rage. Folks are pushing for this local food movement. It's been happening for decades. Upset, like Iowa. I think it's maybe 97% of food that's on Iowa plates is coming from out of state. A lot of breadbasket states are the same. Illinois, Indiana, 90-some% of food is coming from out of state. So we're trapped. Farmers are kind of losing with each passing year. How can we save farms and raise a new generation of farmers without raising prices? That would be the magic fix. Let me just make eggs $20 a dozen, and the kids will want to go farm again. But we know, of course, we've learned recently, been reminded that the rest of civilization wouldn't fall for that. So farm kids know we're doing all kinds of other things. We hustle, we innovate, and we adapt. We go off farm. That's the sad reality. A lot of folks I know of basically everywhere, every county, 93% of counties have 30% of their producers working 200 days or more off the farm. 40% of all farm workers have to do something else. There's no choice. If you don't go off the farm, you can bring people to the farm. That's agritourism, big success story, big money now, double-digit growth, way above economic trend. It's not something everybody can play. Not everybody's ready to go to retail. Not everybody likes people. My uncle is not a people person. He likes his combine. That's okay. But this direct sales from farms and ranches is really big money now. In the last census, 17.5 billion. A lot of that is sold to schools, farm to table, other things, but growing above trend and working. So a lot of that, we need more of that kind of infrastructure. It's a problem all over the world, though. This structural pinch. Agricultural prices going down, inflation, inputs going up, and this is from the UK actually. But just love this banner. They've had some particular tax issues in the UK, but we can't afford to feed you anymore. There's contractual issues. You might have seen this in the news, bad weather, but also just downsizing, right? So if you're a lot of California peach farmers are out of business, Del Monte shut down, and they're switching, bulldozing peach trees to berries and other things, or just going fallow. And I hope you're not in the shrimping business. You might have seen this in the news. It costs more to fill up the boat than the shrimp are worth. So it's adding up. Bottom line, bankruptcies are spiking. It seems like low numbers, but we have low farms, remember? Especially the farms, the big farms that are big time producers. And here you can see the direction of travel, the rate of change is the great concern. You've seen kind of farm bankruptcies ebb and flow, trending down. The pandemic really helped actually put a lot of money in the economy. But again, most recently coming back, farm bankruptcies is exploding. Depends, like all things, on where you are. Here you can see from American Farm Bureau Federation, they got a lot of great research. Where it is where the pain is. Leaning into Georgia, from the Georgia Farm Bureau here, and don't have time to TikTok all this, but as you can see, just bottom line, kind of doesn't matter what you're doing. You're going to lose money again this year. And I'm no Georgia expert I'm no expert on Georgia agriculture, but it's the same thing in the Midwest, and a lot of producers I know in my personal life. But here, according to Georgia Farm Bureau, 7 of the last 11 years in aggregate, net, expenses have exceeded revenue for Georgia farmers. So you can find this on their website. This article by Jay Stone, just on June 1st. Heavy hearts. A vocation often generational. The mental and emotional stress of these financial struggles is overwhelming. I'll read some of these quotes. I feel like I have a concrete block sitting on my chest. There's nights I don't sleep. That's Thomas County farmer Julie Hardy. She told, you can find this article. There's a lot of people around us who've scaled back, and there's some people who decided not to farm anymore at all. Ware County farmer David Morgan said, they don't want the subsidies, but they need them there. You can see him mention subsidy checks. Everything's out of our control. Our pricing, they can't just go to the gin, go to the peanut mill and tell them what they want for a price. They'd laugh us out of there. So farmers are price takers, not price makers. All those global whirlwinds and events, those global prices are what local farmers pay. So this article concluded asking the possibility, hey, what about getting out? And Aries Haygood here says, that crosses my mind about every day now, but I've made a commitment to my family, my father-in-law, the banks, everyone else. So I'm going to go down fighting. I have to try to bring in a different cash flows. Excuse me. I'm trying to read around my camera there. Different cash flows, diversification of revenue. USDA has been working on this for a while. Here from the farm president, you can find this interview. The most serious economic crisis in decades, right? We'll archive this. I'll speed up a little bit. I'm sensitive to the top of the hour. But we've lost money, as we saw. They don't want the government handouts, but they want a fair price, and that's the problem. Georgia State Rep Judd Howard here, just mentioning the consolidation, the trends in consolidation, and it's the number one industry in Georgia, farming, agribusiness, but very small margins, and it's getting more and more difficult with each generation. The degree of difficulty is going up, and very unfortunately, President McCall here, citing this Georgia survey where 42% of Georgia farmers have thought about suicide in the past few years. Just immense family pressure for a lot of folks. If you're not a farm kid, you might not realize the family weight. But they're doing a lot, and I can't read all this, but recent surveys, it is the inflation crisis, and I'll just point out the second bullet there, the third bullet. Only 19% of producers in the South had pre-booked the fertilizer. Remember, we saw that earlier. Fertilizer prices exploded, so most producers in the South had waited to buy and then had to buy the super high prices or not at all. But they're doing what they can at the Farm Bureau. Encourage you to check out their Farm Strong initiative and pray. And call the hotline, Strong Farms website. They have a whole initiative. I'm going to blast through this in the interest of time, but there's a conference in Georgia in its 5th year. They just had on March 12th, the Georgia Farm Stress Summit. So real kindred spirit. What we're doing here at the Solar Farm Summit, lower stakes, but taking it seriously, troubleshooting and brainstorming. There, the Georgia Farm Bureau president was up there with the commissioner of the Georgia Behavioral Health and Development Disabilities Department, because Georgia is the number two in the country for bankruptcy proceedings. So Georgia's taken it in the teeth as much as anyone. That was the associate dean there. There is a hotline. It's you can text or call 988 anytime. Anyone having a mental health crisis, call your friends. There's all these resources. You can take a screenshot. We're archiving this. We're live streaming on YouTube. But really, never a better time. There's a lot of people in the same boat. All of us, actually, even non-farm people. I think it's the age of anxiety, and there's a lot of people standing by to listen, including professionals. And so I will just reiterate what the speaker on the page is quoted as saying, tell your own story, share. We're all in this together. The keynote speaker, I will say this, Tara Haskins from AgriSafe, she concluded that Georgia Farm Bureau Summit. History will judge us by whether we are able to reduce the suicide rate and stigma of mental health issues in agriculture. So it's that bad. I can't really diagnose it and get into all this, but again, we are price takers trapped in a just-in-time global vending machine that is priced to efficient perfection. It makes the economic professors happy, but we've got these very structural issues: high land prices, high labor costs, sole supplier contracts, like the Del Monte we saw, market monopolization, concentration of production, the geopolitical risk. There's policy risk at every level, local, state, and federal. And then what about just applying for a grant from USDA? You got to be pretty smart. If anybody wants to come be a farmer and figure it all out, maybe get that new big tractor. The water is warm. All right, we're running out of time. Recent weather, I don't have to tell you about this. We just had the hottest and the coldest winter of all time. Really bad drought. This is in April, Georgia, southern Georgia. Wildfires, again, I pulled some rage off Instagram. The worst spring drought on record, was it? Yes, it was, actually. There's the Palmer Drought Index. You got to go back to the Great Depression, or excuse me, the Dust Bowl and before to find drier conditions. This is Montana last month. Nebraska, also on fire. The wheat harvest, pretty much wiped out. They've never seen anything like this. In Georgia, this is from the Georgia Forestry Commission. So this is just a real picture from the Pineland Road fire, 32,000 acres on April 22nd. Governor Brian Kemp declared a state of emergency, 91 acres. Out in Arizona, same story. We're drying out and dying out, y'all. The UN has declared a global water bankruptcy. You can find this a lot of media, Washington Post and otherwise. But we've also had the untimely frost. So Utah County, this Utah County farmer totally wiped out. 53 acres of cherries, apples, and peaches. Gone. Never seen anything like it. You can find Mr. Kent Pine here, follow his Instagram. You can hear him testify for himself. Never seen anything like it since 1972. New Jersey, same thing. 200 million in losses right here. Maybe no peaches in the Garden State this year. Or cherries. Frost at the wrong time, confuses the blossoms, game over. Here it is, Sussex County, Pennsylvania. Governor Josh Shapiro visited a U-pick, which is kind of popular, the Sussex County Farm, Hillcrest Farm, almost totally wiped out. And it's that weather whiplash, right? Super freezing temperatures, then warming up. Can't read all this. Same thing down in Virginia. Coast to coast, every microclimate, especially the specialty producers, fruit and veggie folks, this combination is, freeze at the wrong time, wiping folks out. Over in France as well, resorting to the ancient techniques to keep the frost at bay. We care a lot. We do everything we can to adapt. Hail cannons are a thing. Shooting sonic booms up into the clouds to break up hail damage. There's more modern examples. But what about more modern solutions? And that's what this is all about. Solar glass, agrivoltaics, open air greenhouses. You can see that nice lady in the bottom chilling out in her garden. That's in Missouri. It can be the vertical fencing that I mentioned, but it's taking advantage of the shade. Hail protection, frost protection. This is agrivoltaics 101 graphic from NRAL. And so I'm going to blast through overtime. I apologize about the top of the hour. I will stay and answer questions. Trust France, cooler in the summer, frost protection, and this is real evidence of real frost loss protection up to 50% versus the control plot. This is from 2024, Sun Agri. There's what it looks like, the same thing. The Chardonnay actually loved it that year, so plus 60% Chardonnay grapes, not just more junky grapes, better quality grapes. These are the breakthrough American results out at University of Arizona, dryland environment, where they basically tripled the peppers and doubled the tomatoes using respectively half the water for the peppers, 30% less water for the tomatoes, because it turns out there's no plants that use all the day's light. They need to cool themselves, and they use water to do that. And so partial shade is a big agricultural benefit. And here's just a different graphical demonstration of it. Triple the peppers with half the water. Pretty amazing. The jalapenos just kind of hung out. And it was simple. That wasn't trackers like on the French vineyard. So just simple fixed tilt axis panels, and had those tremendous results. Same thing in Italy, which is heating up. Tremendous conservation results. This is a 5-year study. Minnesota, triple the insects after 5 years and 20x the native bees. If you plant the right things, Mother Nature will return with those pollinators we need. Solar grazing saves money. This is from Knox County, Ohio. This 2.3 megawatt Old Slate solar farm project saved Oberlin College. And I don't have time to read Angie Burke's quote, but Angie Burke, a developer from Pivot, who's investing in agrivoltaics because they expect to save 10 to 15% on their greatest cost, which is vegetation management, O&M, every year, those recurring costs. But the four-legged critters are cheaper than the lawnmowers and don't take fuel. Breakthrough, also one of the first solar farm sun-raised foods. You can go farm to table here, and it's a farm in North Carolina without an electric bill. Imagine that. Jack's Solar Garden, we saw this earlier. Longmont, Colorado, we saw this earlier. It's a beautiful hay farm that they built quite cheap, by the way. Bootstrapped it himself, kind of became the developer. All in $1.6 per watt. And been a great platform for learning, a great hub for community development, and the marketplace of ideas and bipartisan cooperation, and brought the local artists out and a lot of other things. So revitalizing American farm life. And I'll be here tomorrow at a ceremonial signing with the governor of Virginia. They're getting their own kind of Jack's Solar Garden of the East in Aldi outside Washington, D.C. I will skip China importing the most energy. They have no fresh water, mostly a desert, subject to terrible dust storms. That's Beijing in 2021. Feels like a science fiction movie. Most of it's polluted. They have most of the world's greenhouses, which can conserve 90% of the world's water, or the water in the greenhouse. Appreciate y'all hanging with me in overtime. There's before and after. So just incredible greenhouse agricultural production in China. There's a zoom in look at all that agricultural glass. Almost 2 million hectares. 30% of all horticulture in China is under glass. That's 60% of the entire planet's greenhouse inventory. And I think it's becoming pretty clear that solar glass is the most adaptable and scalable water conservation technology. They're doing it at a big scale. There's a gigawatt of goji berries in Western China. It's part of the CCP's official anti-desertification strategy. So you can find this in their 5-year plan. They're going to do 253 gigawatts, 1.66 million acres of targeted agrivoltaics and ecovoltaics, solar plus conservation development in Western China, like we have done CRP in the United States. They're going to use solar glass. Xi Jinping has been talking about it. I'll skip his quotes here, but you can find the president of China speaking about solar plus anti-desertification methods, such as the power of solar shade. There it is. They've actually ring-fenced the Taklamakan Desert, the second largest desert in the world, with a combination. They've been planting trees for 40, 50 years in China, but billions of trees have died. But solar glass conserves water without using it. Trees, it turns out, drink water. So here's some just CCP propaganda before and after. being very purposeful with where they put their solar, getting tremendous agricultural and environmental results. Here is a grassland time elapsed 2012. This is a desertifying area. And they put in this solar farm, and that's what it looks like today. In Qinghai province, it's a 2.2 gigawatt solar ranch, returning shepherds to Western China. And here's some science confirming that photovoltaic development has primarily induced positive effects on the region's microclimate, physical and chemical properties of the soil, and diversity of the plant and microbial communities, as supported by the recent findings. So we can do it too, like China, for our own purposes. We're going to talk a lot more about that at the show, at the Georgia Solar Farm Summit. In the next edition, we're going to do another one of these webinars. We believe the future is bright. That's my email there. If you have questions, I threw a lot at you today. And I will stop now. I hope to see you next month, July 15 and 16, or on the travel day for the pre-party at the very first Georgia Solar Farm Summit. Stay tuned. We'll be having the full session reveal. We're going to do, I hope, 2 more of these priming webinars, give you another opportunity to ask questions. We're going to slow down. We're going to bring on some guests. We're going to dig more into Georgia, and we're going to take all these big picture concepts, China's example, and we're going to see how we can adapt it here at home, as we have been, and how we are about to do in Georgia. Hopefully as intentionally and thoughtfully as the Communist Party. That's my joke. Okay. Wow, still a really good group hanging on in overtime. I'm way over 5 minutes. There will be, I can't share the presentation. I see some questions. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. I won't make you screenshot this. The recording will be available on YouTube. We're live streaming right now. Katie Meyer, feel free to jump back on if you have any reminders or final thoughts. I punished them today, over 200 slides, as I love to do. They made me take 100 slides out, you guys. So thank you, Katie, for saving me from myself. There's a lot to discuss. The YouTube channel is Solar Farm Summit, I believe. And you could click on the live and join us there right now. But we'll also clean it up a little bit and then re-upload it as a video. And if you want some more of this, we've done a little bit of these things, similar kind of things ahead of other shows like last year's Solar Farm Summit. You can get a little bit of this big picture stuff. And we've done some Virginia's Solar Summit live streaming. They have their own channel, Virginia Solar Summit on YouTube. And you can go all the way back and find the very first solar grazing session we ever did with Lexi Hain and the American Solar Grazing Association during the pandemic, the 2021 virtual Virginia Solar Summit, which blew my mind and got me hooked on problem solving with agrivoltaics and ecovoltaics, doing things that we've been trying to do other ways. So that's my final ask or thought. If anybody has any other ideas how we can save farms, diversify revenue, increase crop yields, conserve water, help farmers adapt in place, protect production from frost events and hail events. If it's a tin roof, let me know. My line is open. Dan at solarfarmsummit.com. I am open to any and all ideas to feed the 8 billion mouths on the planet and growing, and prevent or start to push back against this, I guess, centuries-long trend, multi-generational trend of fewer and fewer farmers. Let's see. Let me get over here. Any other burning questions? A lot of thank yous. Thanks. Wow, I can't believe everybody still hanging around. Katie, anything I missed?
Nope, I don't think so. I think everything is good.
Awesome. Wish I had another hour.
Yep. Thank you all for joining us. Appreciate you.
Thanks. Yeah, stay tuned. Emails coming. You can check the website. It's been updated. I probably didn't say that enough. GeorgiaSolarFarmSummit.com. And we'll be doing another one of these webinars. So check your emails, check your inbox. And I guess LinkedIn is our main social media. So you can follow Solar Farm Summit on LinkedIn. where we're pretty active, or reach out to us. You can hit the whole team at admin@solarfarmsummit.com. That goes to several of us here. And hope to see y'all at the Georgia Solar Farm Summit next month at the University of Georgia at the Georgia Center. Future is bright. Thanks, y'all.
Take care. Thank you.